Raiders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes, and today we are looking at the Kenevo SL versus the Enduro, or actually any super light Enduro electric mountain bike versus an Enduro traditional analog bike. Because I always compare a super light versus a super light, or a super light versus a full powered electric mountain bike, but I've never compared it against an analog bike. And maybe I've got that wrong, because a couple of weeks ago I was in Poland racing an urban downhill with the Kenevo SL without the battery, and I actually saw quite a lot of people at the race with an Enduro, and it made me think these bikes are super similar on paper, super similar looking, so I would put them back to back and see how they stack up. So in this video we're going to look at how the Kenevo SL stacks up against the Enduro, also how the Kenevo SL rides without the internal 320 watt battery, and at the end I'll give my conclusion on what I think is best for each different rider. And before we crack on, let's thank the sponsors that help keep the lights on at Sam's Bikes. Schwalbe, making amazing electric mountain bike tires, Insta360, the smallest action camera on the market, and Quadlock, the new sponsor, making smartphone holders and cradles for your mountain bike, for your e-bike, for your car, for your home, for your office, pretty much everything. And riders, if you have not checked out samsbikes.net, it is the first, the best electric mountain bike finder on the internet. Check it out. If you're confused about what e-bike to get next, this is pretty much like Wikipedia of e-bikes. It's got every e-bike on the market. You can do a quick search answering 5 simple questions, or you can go into a pro search where you can actually put what motor you want, what chainstay length you want, what size battery you want, and loads more. All the information is there. I'd love to know your opinion, riders, on what you think of the bike finder. And now on to how does the Kenevo SL stack up against the traditional specialized Enduro. I've been lucky enough to do over 700 Ks on the Kenevo SL. I've actually done my long-term review of this bike, link in the show notes. And I've only done one full day on the Enduro, but on pretty hardcore Enduro trails. So I would say I know the bike pretty well, not as well as Kenevo SL. But riders, when we look at them, let's be honest, the Kenevo SL probably should have been called the Enduro SL. They are so similar, and the suspension kinematics is really similar. Both bikes are amazing. I think probably the best suspension kinematics I have tried. But let's take a closer look at both bikes. The Specialized Enduro has a 170 front and back, rolling on 29s, lower link suspension, and weighs in at 15.5 kilos. And it's starting from 5,700 euros. And now the Kenevo SL, 170 mils of travel front and rear, rolling on 29, lower link suspension, so exactly the same as the Enduro. And now the electric part, we've got a 35 Nm SL motor with an internal 320 watt battery. Total weight of the bike is coming in at 18.5 kilos. But the weight of the Kenevo SL without the internal battery is 16.7 kilos, so only 1.2 kilos heavier than the Enduro without a motor. Now we're going to cross over to some POV footage of me smashing down some downhills in Poland, talking about what I think of the Kenevo SL without the battery, how it rides without the battery, how I think it compares to the Enduro, and all that. And then at the end, I'm going to give my conclusion. So riders, enjoy the POV footage. And I'm going to see that downhill track's about 2 minutes. Well, if it's me, it's probably 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm going to see in that time if I can explain to you, riders, how the Kenevo SL feels without a battery, how the motor feels, how the bike handles. So let's get to it. Dropping in. All right, so why would you want to take the battery out? Well, I'm in Poland. I'm in Poland for a downhill race and an urban downhill race. And obviously, you cannot travel with a 320 watt internal battery. So, and there's a big jump here, the big scene. Woo! So you're actually allowed to travel with two 160 watt
range extender on your take-on luggage. So, first of all, you know, you can travel with the bikes. You can come and do races like this. Hang on, this is a nice little drop here. Oh. A lot of people want to go to bike parks for a couple of weeks in the summer or a week in the summer. And an e-bike, a full-powered e-bike, is alright at the bike park. Little drop here. But I'm going to say this is way better without the battery. It basically just feels like an enduro bike. Like, I've had quite a few enduro bikes. So the Kenevo without the battery, it's 1.8 kilos lighter, and you definitely notice it out on the, especially when you're jumping, you definitely notice it. I'm also going to say when you're traveling with the Kenevo SL with one range extender, the Kenevo SL is really efficient. Actually, the SL motor is really efficient. Yeah, granted, you put in more power yourself, but you should be able to get about 500 meters of vertical climbing from one range extender. And if you take two, 1,000, yeah, you're going to work for it, but you can take it on a plane. And now let's talk Kenevo SL versus Specialized Enduro, which they're both 170, 29ers. The base model Enduro is 6,000 euros, and the base model Kenevo is 8. Oh shit! So you're talking 2,000 more. And you know, if you're someone that is not sure if they want to go e-bike, here we got a little jump here, then the Kenevo SL is a pretty good option. So I've ridden quite a few enduro bikes back in the day. I'm going to say, apart from the price, there's not that many negatives, because you can take the battery out like I have done, and you've got an enduro bike and a super light e-bike.
And now we're going to look at the pros of the Kenevo SL and the pros of the Enduro and how they stack up. And riders, remember this is an electric mountain bike channel, so maybe I will be a little bit biased to the Kenevo, but let's see. So first off, Kenevo SL, the pros are, number one, you can ride the Kenevo without a battery and it feels very natural. Number two, when you have the battery installed, it's 8.5 kilos, the bike's super planted and feels more like a downhill bike. Number three, you can travel with the Kenevo SL with 260 watt range extenders, which when you get to your destination will allow you to do around 1,200 meters of vertical climbing, so you won't need a shuttle. Number four, more downtime. I mean, if you're doing like an hour ride or a 2-hour ride, if you're doing it on the Enduro and the Kenevo, you're probably going to get almost twice as much downhilling done. Number five, the 6-way geometry change. So you can change the Kenevo SL from 62.5, 63.5, 64.5 head tube angle, and also from the low to the high at the back. So making it a hugely versatile bike. And now on to the pros of the Specialized Enduro. Number one, if you're a hardcore racer and you want to race like the EWS or something like that, you're gonna need an enduro mountain bike because the Kenevo SL without the battery isn't gonna get it done. Number two, price. There's not a lot in it. I mean, the base models, I think we're 5,700 euros for the base enduro and then 7,000 euros for the base Kenevo SL. So there's not that much in it, but obviously the enduro is cheaper. Number three, weight. So the enduro is 15.5 kilos and the Kenevo SL is 18.5. So there's a fair bit in it. But remember, you can take the battery out and there's about 1.2 kilos involved. But, and that will take me on to my fourth reason, even without the battery, you are going to get a reasonably good pedal stroke, but it won't be 100% natural. So yeah, you do feel a little bit of resistance there, but not a lot. If you're doing bike parks and stuff like that, you're really not going to notice it. And now down to the conclusion. And as I said, riders, this video all came about because I flew to Poland without the internal battery, and it really made me think that the Kenevo SL is the most versatile super enduro mountain bike on the market. And hear me out why. You can take it on trail rides. You can take it on enduro rides. You can take it to the bike park. You can take it on the plane without the internal battery. You can have 2 range extenders at the other side. You can still do all your mountain biking. You can also, if you want to go to a bike park for a week, you can take the battery out. It's going to take you half an hour. It's really not that difficult. And you've got a bike that weighs in at 16.7 kilos, which I think is a fantastic weight for a bike park. The Enduro still has its place, but you know, this is an e-bike channel. I'm 42. I wouldn't be buying an Enduro, especially how similar the Kenevo SL really is, and with all the pros I mentioned. Anyway, riders, let me know what you think and your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed to Sam's Bikes, please do so and share it with like-minded people, and stay safe out there, and we're going to see you next week.